Welcome to another MedCram lecture. In the next set of lectures, we're going to talk about insomnia, what causes it, what are the different diseases that can cause it, and how to manage it. And I would say that even though I am a sleep specialist, some of the recommendations I'm going to be giving are not for everybody. So you need to make sure that you follow up with your own physician. But let's go through insomnia. The first thing we got to do is talk about what happens with normal aging. There are different stages of sleep. There is stage 1, what we term N1. There's stage 2, and there's stage 3. A couple of other stages as well. There is REM sleep, which I'm sure you've heard about. Generally speaking, what happens over the period of a night is someone starts out awake, they go down into a very transient sleep phase called stage 1. And then they go down to stage 2 and eventually go down into stage 3, where they stay until they go into REM sleep, which I'll code here as very dark. Then they come out of that and they go right back up to the beginning of stage 1 and they repeat the same thing again. Now, as this occurs throughout the night, this REM sleep gets longer and longer until actually most of the REM sleep is towards the end of the night. These deep stages of sleep, so stage 3, are usually longer towards the beginning of sleep. So something that we see here in normal sleep is that stage 3 is concentrated toward the beginning of the night, and REM sleep is concentrated more towards the end of the night. Both of these are very restful. This is physically restful, stage 3 sleep. This is where growth hormone is produced. And REM sleep is very mentally restorative. So both of these are very, very important. And unfortunately, as we get older, we see a reduction in both of these types of sleep and an increase in this very sort of bland N2 type of sleep, which really is more of a light sleep. So this is what we see within normal aging. Now, most of these changes occur by the age of 40 or 50 years of age, and sleep remains pretty constant from the age of 60 to 90. There is one exception, and that sleep efficiency. So what is sleep efficiency? Sleep efficiency is simply the amount of time of sleep divided by the amount of time in bed. And that steadily decreases from about 95% down to about 80% in general as one approaches 80 years of age. So what happens when you approach middle age? There's a number of things that occur normally. There's increased awakenings. So you're waking up more in the middle of the night. There's arousals. And there's more stage shifts. This is the stages I was talking about before. You also see a decrease in stage 3, and you also see a decrease in REM sleep. As I mentioned before, you get a decrease in sleep efficiency. And as you reach middle age, there is more of what we call a phase advancement. What do I mean by phase advancement? With phase advancement, you're going to be getting up earlier. So basically getting up from bed earlier and going to bed earlier. The interesting thing, however, is that despite all of these things, you're a little bit more resistant to sleep deprivation. Or to the effects of sleep deprivation. What I mean by this is that let's say as a teenager, if you missed 4 or 5 hours of sleep, it wouldn't affect you as much as if you were older and you missed 4 or 5 hours of sleep. You'd be able to perform a little better, which is kind of paradoxical from what you would think. Now, in terms of disease, an actual disease, insomnia goes up as we get older. No surprise there. If we look at a study of 18 to 34-year-olds, there's about 14% incidence of insomnia. From the age of 35 to 49, the incidence is about 15%. So it remains pretty stable. However, when we get to 50 to 64 years of age, we hit about a 20% incidence. Here's the key though. From 65 to 79 years of age, that jumps up to 25%. This is a pretty astounding figure when you realize that a quarter of the population of retirement age has a problem with insomnia. And insomnia is a pretty generic term. I mean, if we could use a number of different words to describe it, about 19% of people wake up too early. Another 19% would describe trouble falling asleep. %, have daytime napping. 29% basically come right out and just say they've got insomnia. And then if you look at both initiating and maintaining sleep, we're looking at 43% of older adults. So these are people who have a mean age of 74 years of age. Of those people, these are what they're complaining about. And 43% have problems with initiation and maintaining both. Now, this is by no means a geriatric diagnosis. There are many of young people and middle-aged people who have this problem. Now, in terms of the different causes of insomnia, let's say we got rid of all of the easy causes of insomnia, for instance, drinking too much caffeine or some of these things. If we were to break it down, what would be the breakdown of insomnia in terms of cause? Well, it turns out the biggest reason for people to have insomnia, so 35% of people who have insomnia have some sort of psychiatric illness. And what I mean by that is depression. So you got to know that in terms of treatment, because if you don't treat the depression, the insomnia is not going to get better. Next on the list, about 15% have what we call psychophysiologic or what we call performance anxiety. What do I mean by that? Have you ever been in the kitchen or in the living room or the family room, felt really tired, and then as soon as you went into the bedroom, you just could not fall asleep? This is psychophysiological. We're going to explain about that in the upcoming lectures. 12% is alcohol or drug. Yes, these can cause insomnia. Another 12% is restless leg syndrome, something that we'll talk about as well. 10% is circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm disorder. And finally, the last 9% is kind of a weird diagnosis. It's actually where they think they can't sleep, but they actually are sleeping if you test them. It's called paradoxical. So you can see here that this is where the bulk of your diagnoses are. This one's going to be the most interesting. So what we're going to do is we've kind of laid the groundwork of what insomnia is, where it comes from. Let's talk about where the pathophysiology meets the road in terms of causes, diagnosis, management, and treatment. Join us for the next lecture.